Back to the object creation. Here's another way to create a new object. I'll get rid of person1 here, and I'll get rid of this check, and also of this, but I will still create another person. But I can use the built-in object, but now not with the new keyword, but instead the static method create. This allows me to create a new object. However, I do have to pass something here, and I will pass null for now. I'll come back to it though. I can still say another person dot name equals Anna, and well, I won't set the age, but of course I could do this too. And if I log out another person here, let's see what happens. Well, we got an object with a name. So object create, why do we have this? We already had another method we're not using, so why would we need object create? This method actually makes sense to have. It's longer than the literal notation, but it does have an advantage. You'll be able to grasp more once we reach the lectures on prototypes. To talk a little bit about this right now without going into depth, because I'll do that later. Prototypes are kind of JavaScript's form of inheritance. So basically, prototypes allow you to have a prototype of an object and then create objects of that prototype. And if that prototype has a certain function, all the objects based on that prototype would have that function too. So that is what a prototype is. And each object you create, also that object here for example, has a prototype. The default object prototype is object.prototype. That's a built-in object on its own, which is the root prototype of all objects here. So that's just a side information, and I will come back to prototypes later. With object create, you see we pass an argument which is null. And this argument specifies which prototype we want to set for the object we create. As I just explained, the default is object.prototype. This object would have this prototype. This object will not, because I'm passing null. And now the interesting thing is, I can not only pass null, I can pass any other object which I want to be the prototype for this object. So if I pass person here, I can now try to log another person.age. And would you think that this works now? Let's see it. It works. We get 27, even though another person doesn't have an age property. But its prototype, person, which we set here, does have it. And again, if you're not 100% sure what this is all about, I'll get back to prototypes soon. But object create is a useful way of creating new objects where you can control what the prototype should be. We'll also learn about yet another method of creating objects later, where you can also control what the prototype is. But this here is a very useful method if you need to set the prototype on your own. If you don't need that, if you don't care, if you just need an object like that to work with, then the literal notation is still absolutely fine. So that have been the very basics about object. It's time to dive deeper into one key topic when we're talking about JavaScript objects: prototypes.